The story actually goes all the way back to a policy that Deng Xiaoping instituted of maximizing stability through maximizing employment. In order to do that, that required state-owned banks, for the most part, to make tremendous amounts of loans to state-owned companies, even at the expense of risk-adjusted profitability. So we saw a number of projects that have been funded over the years simply to create employment, not necessarily to create value. And this has led over time to a large number of bad loans that are held on the books of state-owned banks. And this is a long-standing problem. There was a bank bailout in 1999. There was further ones in 2004 where these bad loans were taken off of the books. But since 2008, when the export sort of driven model became under question because of lack of demand coming out of Europe and America, they decided that they needed to maintain stability by maintaining employment. And that meant not only a massive stimulus package in the range of $586 billion, but also a massive increase in lending by state-owned banks. Now, this massive increase in lending ultimately gets spent onto wages. These wages end up back in the household sector, and you end up with a multiplication of the money supply as deposits get lent back out and redeposited and lent back out and redeposited. Using a broad measure of money supply, M2, the amount of money in China has more than tripled in the last 7 years. And so, predictably, when you have a lot more money sloshing around in the system, you end up with asset bubbles. The first big one we saw was a real estate bubble in the last few years. As the government took steps to try to control that, we also then saw an expansion into what most people know as shadow banking, or wealth management products. But as the government slowed that down last year, the next place for the money to move to has been the stock market. Because of this excess amount of cash chasing a limited amount of securities, we saw the price of most of the stocks in the Shanghai Exchange double and a half in the last 12 months, 150% increase above and beyond what they were already, which is almost remarkably unsustainable. There are not a sufficient 150% increase in earnings, simply a 150% increase in prices. And so this basically turned into a greater fool game of people bidding up prices until you had a significant disconnect between the value of stocks and the prices. And eventually the music stops. And when that happens, people want to get their money out because they realize there's no bigger fool coming in behind them. And that's what we've been seeing since June 12th.